Join us in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to call this meeting to order. First, we have approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as it stands?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. All those in favor? Any opposed? It passes. Next, we have the good news portion. Dr. Rice.
Mr. Rose, Dennis McGee, Ms. Collins.
First of all, this evening, we'd like to recognize the winners of our Soul and Water poster contest. We will recognize the essay and slideshow contest winners next meeting. But our poster winner for third grade, first place, Madison Marshall with Lawsonville Elementary School.
Madison, if you'll see Mr. Rose over there, he'll give you your certificate. For fourth grade, our first place winner was Jax Smith, King Elementary. I'm not sure if Mr. Smith is with us. He is. Very good. And our second place is Dakota Murphy from Dormanton Elementary, and she is attending us with us virtually tonight. Fifth grade, first place Seth Waller from Dormanton Elementary. And our second place is Haley Fulp, King Elementary. Our sixth grade winners, our first place was Jason Walsh from Southeastern Middle School. And our second place was Natalie Wall, Southeastern Middle School. I'd like to thank the schools and the students for participating in our Soul and Water poster contest. Great job, guys. I got to see your posters and they were fabulous.
Congratulations, students. I'm going to turn these chairs so they won't get in the picture too much. It's just, yes, you're going to tighten up just a little bit. We won't keep you long because of second.
Parents and yo, come on up where Miss Jessup is. This is Stokes County, we're all there.
Here's the first picture. We'll do two, okay? All right, with your eyes, smile. Okay, that's one. Let's get a second one. 1, 2, 3, here we go. All right.
Thank you all again. Great job,
There. Okay.
When you go, whenever the mic is off.
At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Collins to come and discuss the Educator of Excellence
the Exceptional Children's Division with us. Thank you.
In lieu of the regular Education of Excellence celebration, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction Exceptional Children's Division has created a new way for districts to recognize outstanding educators, related service personnel, and special education support staff providing services to students with disabilities. Extraordinarily exceptional educators will be presented with a certificate, and their picture will be posted via a virtual recognition board on the NCDPI ECD website. Recognitions of nominated staff will occur 3 times throughout the year. Our second recognition this year in Stokes County, Kimberly Charles, for her hard work and dedication to the students at Chestnut Grove Middle School. Here is what Dr. Lassane had to say about Mrs. Charles. I could not let this opportunity pass without recognizing Mrs. Kimberly Charles at Chestnut Grove Middle School. This year, our EC department lost 2 EC teachers at the same time and added 2 new teachers to the team along with a substitute. Mrs. Charles stepped in and took on the role of EC lead and created several spreadsheets to help our team get back on track, assisted in training with new EC teachers, worked through her planning to catch paperwork up, and assisted in holding and making over 20 meetings compliant. These meetings consisted of reevaluations, parent referrals, annual reviews, and addendum meetings. Mrs. Charles also made sure all folders were accounted for and filed properly. Mrs. Charles is a hard worker and vital to the Chestnut Grove family. We'd like to say congratulations to Kimberly Charles for being our second extraordinarily exceptional educator to be recognized in Stokes County Schools. Mrs. Charles could not be here tonight, but we will make sure she gets her certificate. We'll keep going.
Mhm.
The next recognition is for staff at South Stokes High School, the Cook Medical Grant recognition. We'd like to recognize Patricia Cromer and Mary Cromer from the EC department at South Stokes High School. They submitted and received a Cook Cares grant application to Cook Medical for $1,000. The grant request for the purchase of equipment to begin a school-based enterprise system for students on the occupational course of study. This grant will help those students earn work hours needed for graduation. Congratulations to both Patricia and Mary and to the students at South Stokes High School. And again, they could not be here tonight, but we'll make sure they get their certificate. Thank you.
That's a good job on the $1,000.
Now that the recognition is complete, we thank everyone for coming, and if anyone would like to leave at this time, you can feel free to do so, or you're welcome to stay on with us, but we wanted to give you just a little intermission here, okay? Thank you all again. We're very proud of you. Thank you.
Well, that'll be everybody. And they go.
And at 6,
Hey.
one in the packet, we just did those electronic for y'all. Yes. it ain't-
Well, we did it
over-
anymore.
Mhm. Right.
I just cleared the house.
She said there weren't any.
Comments.
Thought we did, but she didn't show up. It's been 3 weeks ago. She probably forgot.
I've seen the video.
Oh, have you? Well, don't turn that way.
Ms. Boljak and Mr. Johnson, are there any public comments at this time? No. Next, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of approval of regular session minutes for February 1st, 2021. Any discussion regarding those or corrections to be made?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Messick. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Next, we have discussion agenda, discussion of budget resolution.
At the last meeting, we discussed the budget resolution and we did not put it on action. So since it did not get moved to action, we have received some additional federal funding. So I just revised it for this meeting to include the additional amount that we'd received. So now we're looking at $68,894,155.51. The other funding sources stayed the same. And also in your packet, I know last time I just gave you some percentages, tried to do pie charts just to make it a little bit easier for you all to see. You have pie charts summarized by fund, by purpose code, and by object code. And as you look at this, when you look at your object code, you will see that 80% of all of our funding goes towards salaries and benefits. So that doesn't leave a whole lot for the other categories. But if you look at this and have further questions, just let me know.
Thank you so much, Ms. Moore. Thank you.
Make a motion to move that to action.
Okay, there's a
I'll second.
motion to move it to action. Is there a
I'll second.
second? Thank you, Mr. Bryant. All those in favor? We will make that budget resolution action item C. Next, we have discussion of iCare's middle school after-school program.
Hello, board members. I just want to give you a further update on the grant that we had received earlier with the iCares grant for the $200,000. In front of you, I have put together a schedule. This was in the original grant paperwork. We are probably going to need to do some minor revisions to this as to whether or not we are still on the hybrid model. And then we'll have an adjusted schedule also for a Plan A model as well. Also within this, I have heard back, we have our personnel that have applied to be a part of this. I would like to use as many of them as possible to make this successful, because these are the folks who would like to participate with us, and we will need these folks to run a rotation so that they're not having to work every day after school. That was one thing that I picked up. Lastly, there are contracts between the Stokes County School System and the YMCA and Insight. And again, this is a grant that has already been approved, but this is an updated contract. I did hear from Terry Fowler and Derek today that they are in line and approve of these contracts. Thank you, board members. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have discussion of school mental health support personnel.
Good evening, board. Sorry.
Contract size, that probably should move that. Yes, ma'am.
All right, I make a motion that we move it to action.
I'll second.
And seconded by Mr. Bryant. The motion was made by Ms. Messick. All those in favor? Thank you. We'll make that action. Next, we have discussion, mental health support personnel.
Board members, each year, the school district, Dr. Rice and the school district is required to, per statute, to submit a report to the State Board of Education regarding the type and number of mental health service providers that we have in the school district. So when you drop down, it asks basically the total number in each category and the difference in each category from the previous year. So just real quickly, we currently have 3 school psychologists. That's an increase of 1 from 1920. We have 20 guidance counselors. That's the same as the year 1920. We have 4 social workers. That shows a +1. And the reason we've not actually hired a new social worker, but due to the nature of the counselor position at our alternative school, we can actually pay that as a social worker position. So that's why we have listed that in this report. And we have 6 school nurses. We actually were able, with some COVID money, to contract with a part-time nurse this year. So that's an increase of 1.
Any questions?
Okay, one real quick. You're saying you're reclassifying the guidance at Meadowbrook to social worker?
We're not necessarily reclassifying the position. It's how we're able to pay for the position. given the needs of those students and the structure that we use in that setting, we did have some flexibility, and Ms. Moore and her staff were able to recode that position from a financial perspective. But his day changing drastically, no, sir.
The reason I ask is when the board originally approved the addition of that, it was to serve 20 schools and not just one. So I'm a little concerned.
This is the former counselor. This is not the new social
When
worker.
we submitted the budget, we had allocated 4 social work positions. And now we didn't add 4, we added 3 and reclassified 1, if I'm hearing you correctly. So
We added 2 full-time, and then we had from 29 behavioral support money, we were able to hire a 3rd social worker that works primarily with at-risk students. So those are our 3 full-time social workers, and then we were able to recode the pay for the counseling position at Meadowbrook because of the nature of what he does.
well, I understand how we're recoding. I'm just wondering, Ms. Messick, Ms. Knight, I told we would have 4 social work positions in addition under the budget. And I'm just,
Seems like it.
My recollection, we went from 2 to 3, but
well, no, a previous board member had, that was a champion, but we had said yes for that. Oh, I'm not sure.
We did have a lot of discussion on that on the social workers and how much they were needed.
But I'm just concerned with this climate and the
Well,
stresses.
The 2 that we have one that serves all of our K-5 schools, and we have one that serves all of our 6-12 schools. Those are our 2, what I would consider full-time for the entire district. Then, like I said, we have the one that works with primarily high at-risk. She's stationed at Piney Grove.
Right.
And then we have this situation. We can go back and look at the minutes. I don't remember adding a 3rd or a 4th full-time, but we definitely can go back and check to
again,
make
my
sure.
recollection, we went from 0 to 2 in that one budget year of adding the 2. And then when the grant came available for working with at-risk students, we were able to add that one to Piney Grove and Meadowbrook. So that was the additions that I recall. Again, we could certainly look back and see if we're missing something, but those were the additions I remembered.
Yeah, double check. Okay. Any other questions?
So is there a social worker at Meadowbrook?
There's a full-time guidance counselor, and then a part of a social worker job works with the at-risk students at Meadowbrook.
So that one comes over to,
Yes, ma'am. The one from Piney Grove comes over to
comes over,
Meadowbrook.
okay, that's the one that's at risk, so,
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
so she just works at, I just assume it's a woman, but she works at Piney Grove and
and
Meadowbrook.
Meadowbrook.
Yes, ma'am.
Like Meadowbrook one day and Piney Grove 4, or how does-
She is housed at Piney Grove. She has a schedule where she moves about between Piney Grove and Meadowbrook. But with this year, with COVID being what it is, I'll have to go back and look
No,
to see if it's
well, that's
specific
okay.
days.
I just-
But yes, ma'am, she does have a schedule that
Okay.
allows her to move
Sure.
between those 2 schools.
Okay.
And the nature of that money will only allow her to work with those young people who have been classified as at risk
At risk,
with that money that's being used to pay for that position.
okay, thank you.
That's all that I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Discussion of policy 2000 series.
Board members, I've given you these previously, the updates to the 2000 series in that folder. You also have the spreadsheet of the changes, the Cliff Notes version, if you will. Again, these were shared with you last month or earlier this month at the work session as well, and just wanted to see if you had any questions about any of those policies. This is more of just a reminder discussion agenda item instead of a new one, but to give you a chance to voice any questions before we possibly move these to sit for 30 days.
Any questions or concerns, board, regarding any of the 2000 series policies?
I do recall we had a question or two raised last meeting. Did anyone want to further elaborate or make any suggested changes or?
Mr. Johnson clarified.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Mr. Johnson, turn this on. Mr. Johnson clarified the questions I had, so I think I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Bryant?
On 2127, it says your manual does not contain this policy, which is recommended to address key issues that arise when board members use school issued or personal technological resources such as laptops, email accounts, or use personal social media for personal or school system related communications. Now, just what are the key issues on that? I mean, I know that we shouldn't be doing stuff, that not up to board member standards or whatever, but it says personal. And I just want to know if that's trying to limit somebody, what they do on their personal self, or is it going to take in their personal liberties away, or what?
I think the main point is that board member use at whatever you place on school technology can be open to public discussion.
Right. Mm-hmm. But the word personal is what more I was concerned with.
It's all, what I often tell young teachers in workshops is don't put on a school
I got
computer
AT&T my number.
anything that you would not want to see printed on the front page of the newspaper, because it is subject to public discussion.
Yeah.
And I think very often that we get requests, public records requests for emails or any other document that may be sent by board members to board members or to other school employees. If it's using school technology is subject to public disclosure.
Right.
And that's what that shorthand version is basically saying.
And you're referring to which number again?
2127. Wait, AT&T does work.
What
And-
is that?
There's
Amber.
Amber Alert and a flash flood warning, and that's why all of our phones are going off that are hooked up to these messages.
I mean, I see your concern, Mr. Bryan. If I'm pulling it up here, the board member technology use, I mean, it's a very, very lengthy, policy. 5 pages long, exactly. Well, that last page might be blank. 4 pages long, but, it just says, board members should be aware when they use a personal social media account in their capacity as a public official, allow community members to post comments publicly on the account. They may be creating a public forum for speech protected by First Amendment. If a public forum is created, the board must be careful not to engage in viewpoint discrimination. Deleting a community member's comments because the board member does not like the view expressed, blocking any certain individuals, or being able to post based on their views. Board members are encouraged to consult with an attorney to create viewpoint neutral rules to govern. And then it says to govern their school system, business related, personal social media accounts. So it gets a little intertwined there. Are they referring to like a
Your personal
school board Facebook page or something, or saying you're running, or is it just your personal Turl Knight Facebook page has to be neutral? That's what I was wanting to know.
Mm-hmm.
If you consider it public official,
Right.
the board education member, a county commissioner, any elected official, whatever you place on your media account, they would be considered public speakers. You're subject to certain rules and regulations that the general person is not required to follow. So what you place on your emails, or what you place on your computers, as I say, may be subject to public disclosure. Just need to be very careful.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, even on your personal Facebook page, correct?
It is related to your position as a member of the board of education.
All right.
Would y'all like to table this one policy and maybe at the work session, make sure everybody has a copy of it in front of them and spend a little time discussing this one before we vote on it?
It's so lengthy and it's new to us and it is restrictive of, a little bit restrictive of your First Amendment as a board member. So I would just,
I suggest we table it, but also we read it and see if we even want to include it.
yeah, that was.
'Cause we don't
my
have it
thought.
now.
We don't have to include this policy, correct? I mean, we know our proper behavior, decorum and everything like that. That's already covered.
Do you have to include it or not? Oh,
Whether we include it or not, we're going to be subject to the same legal standards anyway.
whether it's included or not.
But these are not for adoption either. They're going to have to lie on the table. If there is any question that needs further study, then I agree with you. You don't need to, we can table this one policy for further review.
And then, I know Mr. Robertson, and maybe I had mentioned it last meeting as far as the public participation at board meetings, and we briefly discussed that. How you kind of could ask a question or ask for a clarification or something along those lines. Not to get, into this lengthy discussion, and definitely not discussing anything personnel related. We all understand that. But if we considered a change in how to handle the public participation at board meetings, is that something that we could email to you, changes, and you see what you think and forward to the board and go from there? Any other concerns or questions regarding any of these policies?
Well, I can give you all the
Sure. Okay. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I would want to know what was included in the changes because, as long as I've known, or as long as I've been on the board, and I think even previous boards, we have gone by what the North Carolina School Board Association has recommended. And I think it has been the right thing to do. So I do have something to read on that. But is this the time to do it or when we propose the changes?
Well, I'm just saying I can just give you alternatives to look at, just to see what possibilities are out there.
You can share now, or we can share it when we do go to adopt.
Well, I think that we all need to have a face-to-face discussion on what the changes would be
Oh, yeah.
instead of texting them or emailing
Oh,
them.
yeah,
to-
no, it would be face to face. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think if we pull 21, 27 and bring it up at the work session, that will give us a chance to discuss that as a group and make sure everybody's either comfortable with it or not. And y'all can, as a board, you can decide whether or not you want to move forward with the adoption process or not. If there's another policy, and that's why I'm trying to give them to you well in advance.
Oh, yeah. we appreciate
So
it.
is if you can let us know and say, you know what, instead of doing the quick, overview as we're doing, this one I'd like to discuss more in depth, or these two I'd like to discuss more in depth, we can certainly do that.
Well, then I would like to do more in-depth 2310, public participation at board meetings.
Okay, so
Because-
those two we can pull out and discuss further at our work session. Is that okay with you?
Yes,
Well, I think as we read through them and digest them even further, I mean, I don't want to limit us at the work session to 2 policies.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there may be something we pull up along the line.
All right, then
But
we'll
we'll
move.
focus on those 2.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Ms. Messick?
yes, as long as we don't vote on this tonight,
No, ma'am.
unless it's just exactly like it is.
Okay.
I don't think we could even vote on it tonight. It's got to sit
No,
30
these would be
Just a
for sitting for 30
discussion.
days.
Mhm.
But these two will be pulled out. to
We will
read.
discuss these a lot further at the next work session. There'll be specific agenda items for that we can discuss.
Okay.
Thank
Can we have, Mr. Johnson maybe send us the alternative
In the meantime,
in the meantime, so we can be looking at that between now and then?
yes.
Again, y'all have our former one and the proposed ones from the School Board Association in that Google Docs
Right.
folder. If you would like that emailed specifically to you, we can do that as well if you want those in a standalone, but they are in that main folder that we provided for you.
Okay.
But Mr. Johnson can work to provide the alternative language in that other.
Well, okay, it's because most school boards go by this policy that has been standing for a very long time. For certain reasons, yeah.
All right, next we have discussion item E, relaunch 2020-2021.
Board, just to give you an update, as I've done, there should be a new one in your folder, labeled 2/15/21. The most recent data from Stokes County was February 10th. The data for our students and staff is as of today. Staff, we had 4 active cases, which is 0.44% of the population. We've had 101 cases overall, which is 11.22% of our population. We had 7 active students today, 0.12% of our students, and 215 overall cases at 3.77%. We now do have 1 cluster for Stokes County Schools that's reported by DHHS on their main page as well at Mount Olive Elementary School. The transmission from one person to another is still undetermined at this time with Mount Olive, looking to see, was it more likely that they were contracted it from maybe a parent who was positive or someone else, or did it occur at school? Regardless, we had more than 5 cases in a contained area, if you will, 1 grade level, 2 classes, and therefore it was a cluster, but the school transmission is still being determined at this time. With that part of bad news from, well, more than a week ago now about Mount Olive, the good news is today was one of our lowest active case counts in a long time, with 4 staff members and 7 students. So again, I believe when we've had situations, our staff has handled it appropriately and quickly. And again, when we closed down Mount Olive, the cleaning crews went in there quickly, wiped off every hard surface, resprayed the areas, and got that together. And again, trying to be as safe as possible in what we're doing, but very proud of our efforts, and we're having some good results with that. So that is the latest COVID update. I did share in an email that we are working to try to get a vaccine clinic, working with the health department and in partnership also with Life Bright Hospital. And we don't have specific dates with that. We've asked people to tentatively hold Friday, the 26th, and possibly Saturday, the 27th, for staff members to pencil those dates in, but we do not have times and locations yet. We don't even have really technically that date set, but that's what we're shooting for, if we can make it all work. People will get appointment cards. Life Bright is confident that with doing the paperwork as much as we're doing in advance, that they can vaccinate up to 60 people in an hour. Right now, we have a little bit over 350 signed up, about 370, I believe, as was the latest count today. So that would be a little bit over 6 hours, but we're looking to schedule that where it would not interfere with classes on that Friday. You know, maybe the cafeteria workers and bus drivers who have signed up, let them go when they're not working to get their vaccinations, teachers to come after school, and then possibly a Saturday for the ones that could not make it on a Friday evening. So that we're working, and also so that they could have, trying to do this on a Friday in case there are some side effects to the vaccine, that they would have the weekend to recover. So that's our COVID update at this point, or are there any questions?
I thank you for working with Tammy Martin on this, and, because I think it's very important that, the teachers and school personnel get vaccinated, because I believe this would be one step closer, maybe bringing the students back into school. And, so thank you. I know that's a lot of negotiation there, and, with Life Bright. So are you working with, the person that's in charge at Life Bright?
I have her name downstairs. I've met her on Friday. I don't recall it, but yes, ma'am, one of the lead administrators there.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much, Dr. Rice. Next, we have discussion of central office roles.
All right. Mr. Rose, if you'd like to start us off.
Sure. Board members, I've worked with most of you in some aspect of the things listed on the page. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I just wanted to list those things out and let you know if you have any questions in any one of those areas. You have my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me and we can go through and clarify any questions that you might have.
You failed to mention your better part.
The what?
You're going to be in trouble if you go into work tomorrow and you don't mention your assistant.
Oh, absolutely. The director trainer, that's what we call her. Sarah Owens is the director trainer. And we have her contact information as well. So she has definitely taken care of me and Anna. She's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Next time we'll have Miss Owens do it so it'll be done correctly.
Thank you. I think she did type quite a bit of this for me, but.
Ms. McGee?
Don't worry, I'm not bringing my computer up here to read a whole big thing off for you. So I'm Anna McGee. I'm the Director of Elementary Education as well as the AIG District Coordinator, K-12. So you see all the things that both of those entail. Sarah Owens is our administrative assistant. As Doug calls her, the academics director. She keeps us in line. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I know that in elementary, there's always a lot of laws that fall under us that you may not be familiar with, or you want to know more information about. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.
Ms. Barker?
My name is Karen Barker. I'm the Director of Media and Technology. My office number is on here as well as my work cell. I oversee the technology for Stokes County Schools, collaborating closer with the media coordinators because they are my go-to in the schools for finding out needs as well as the principals. I also meet with district leaders across the state to see what other districts are doing, what's working, what's not, and hopefully come back with some great ideas. Also still provide technical support because I have worked at many of the schools. Many folks still reach out to me and say, you remember you showed me how to do this, so I still can't let that go. So they reach out to me for that. So overseeing the media coordinators, district-wide spelling bee coordinator, district-wide Battle of the Books coordinator. I left off E-rate coordinator and oversee our technician, which is Sonia Norman. She's our technology technician 3. She is also our Google admin, domain administrator, Chromebook management and administrator, Windows domain administrator. Works with the Zscaler content filtering for our Chromebooks and our desktops. And the VDI infrastructure, which is what we just started this year. We just purchased 2 virtual servers for our CTE courses to be offered to be able to remote in using their Chromebook to the specific software that they need for their courses. And she also continues to provide tech support. Our administrative assistant is Tamara Rose, and she is also the receptionist. Delilah Brady is our instructional technology facilitator for the county, and we all work closely together.
We'll tell you that the tech team is burning the candle at both ends. We have gone from 400 Chromebooks to, I was saying 6,000 Chromebooks, and I was told the other day that I was still underestimating that. It was a lot more than that. And we are looking for help. And so we're looking at outside vendors. We're looking for independent contractors. We're looking for every way possible to try to get some help and hopefully bring you some ideas, suggestions soon. We know that we need that, and we're certainly looking for that both in the short term and possibly a long-term budget item as well. We'll be hopefully bringing you some solutions in the next couple of weeks. All right, Ms. Collins?
I'm Terry Collins. I'm Director of Special Programs, and I look at my list, I'm like, it seems so short, but really, it's a lot of work. We oversee all of EC 504, related services, behavior, contracts, grants, all those things, PD. And I do that with a wonderful team that I couldn't work without. Cynthia Mabe, my Assistant Director, Kristen Hoover, who's in charge of audit and compliance, our Program Specialist, Regina Beatty, who is our preschool coordinator, who's new to us this year. She's fantastic. Cameron Regashis is our behavior liaison, and Jennifer Handy holds it all together in our office as an administrative assistant. I also have the social worker that Dr. Taylor was talking about, works under us with the PRC 29 grant. So all those folks help us have a really great program. Thank you.
Ms. Moore?
Okay, I am Lynette Moore, Director of Finance, and as you listen to what all these people do, if it has anything to do with money, it ends up in finance. So I have 4 other people in my department. Sherry Bennett, we divide our duties, but when it comes time to overlap and help one another, we do that as well. She's responsible for our accounts payable and athletic finances. Dawn does part of the payroll, and Kayla does part payroll. Dawn does more with deductions. Kayla does more with insurance when it comes to payroll. Shannon Reeves is administrative assistant. She works a lot with the individual schools as far as their accounting, their allotments, and any new treasures we have, training those folks. So anytime, feel free. You have the contact information there as well.
Mr. Sands?
Yes, I'm Michael Sands, Director of Testing and Accountability, EL Services, English Language Learners, as well as Title I Services. My office is located at London Elementary in the old EC wing. You have my contact information. Basically, under those job titles, state assessment, accountability, any test data, just like with Lynette, when she deals with money numbers, I deal with other numbers. So anything dealing with that, EVOS, roster verification for our teacher effectiveness, those are reported to the state. Cognitive ability, supporting the AIG program, identifying those students. Access testing, WAPT testing, that's for our EL. And I'm responsible for the immigrant headcount, EL headcounts, and any services provided to our English language learners. In addition to the data collection there for the state report cards, civil rights compliance. And then I also supervise the Title I program, in addition to working with Anna towards the Title I programs at our elementary in Meadowbrook. And then as well, I also do the grant submissions for many of our other federal grants to the CCIP application. And you can see the many grants there that kind of flow through me. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. If you call my office and no one answers, that's because I'm not there. Unless Louise Cape. Louise Cape is our CTE IMC, which works for the CTE under Doug, but she does share my office on a part-time basis when she needs to.
Thank you.
Ms. Slager?
Good evening, Board. My name's Ann Sliger. I'm the Director of Student Information, Student Reassignments. And I listed my contact information on my sheet in the discussion folder. I support all of our schools, all grade levels, excuse me, and I work with a wonderful group of data managers. And I listed all of those in there so you could see. They're very busy at the school level. And quite frankly, I'd like to just thank each and every one of them on that list, because I couldn't do my job without having their support and the work that they do for the school as well as for me. My main duties include Power School, and that's our, excuse me, database for student records. I also do Bright Arrow, that's our phone messaging software. Scrib Enroll, our online registration software, and student reassignments. Thank you.
And we just wanted to, again, use the last couple of meetings to, again, new board members, even though they're very familiar to all of us, we kind of take some of that stuff for granted, but we wanted to let you put a name with a face and also give you something that if you have a question that comes up, you can refer to and say, oh, okay, well, this person deals with that, and you've had a chance to meet the people behind the mask a little bit. So I would say a name with a face, but didn't really see their faces much, but their pictures are in the folder and they're online as well. In today's world, I look at those pictures when I talk to people because I like to see a face. But if you have any questions, again, please reach out to myself or any of them, and they do a wonderful job. It's a great team.
Yes, we appreciate all of you very much and all you do daily, and thank you for taking the time to share your jobs and everything with us tonight. Thank you so much. Next, we have discussion of mental health update.
Board members, we were asked to share some of the programs and assistance that we are providing our students and families, both ongoing and especially during this time of COVID. And what I have done is I sit down with Mr. Rose and Ms. McGee. Ms. McGee works with the counselors at the K-5 level. Mr. Rose works with counselors at the 612 level, and I work with social workers more closely. So the three of us got together. I compiled this list, and I want to apologize. Underneath K-5 counselors, I've listed a bulleted list there. And instead of saying tiered interventions, it says tired interventions. And it's correct on the other list.
Right.
I don't know if that was an unintended mistake or if I subconsciously typed tired interventions, but needless to say, I apologize for that spelling error. Spell check did not catch it, of course, because tired is spelled correctly. But I digress. We do offer several programs and several types of assistance to our families. We have, and I'm not going to read all of these, but some of the things that we do, we offer referrals, both student, family, staff referrals ongoing. We have expanded our office hours, if you will. We are doing more check-ins with our students and our staff on a regular basis. We are meeting with students one-on-one more than ever. We are offering different curriculums. For example, the PASS curriculum is something that our K-5 counselors are using. We are really focusing more on relationships and on engagement. 612 counselors, as you can see, and again, I will not read all of those. One I would like to highlight is our partnerships with Insight, Youth Haven, Stokes Friends of Youth, etc. We are having counselor PLCs, that's professional learning communities, where our counselors get together both in a virtual format and on occasion, they break into smaller groups and meet personally. Then with our social workers, typically our social workers focus more on attendance, but this year with attendance being what it is, we have changed their language, if you will, and we're focusing more on engagement, making sure that our students are engaged either virtually or face-to-face. We do make home visits, calls. We help families secure personal items ranging from clothes to if we have a family that doesn't have heat, that doesn't have power, we work with families trying to secure that. that funding to make those things possible. So we are very proud of the programs and the steps that we're taking and the assistance we're providing. What I'd like to do is just open the floor to you real quick, give you a chance if you have any questions. Ms. McGee, Mr. Rose, and myself are available to answer any questions in more detail.
Any questions, Mr. Rogers?
No, I'm good. Thank you for all the work you and your staff do.
Well, our counselors and our social workers are really working very hard to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students.
Mr. Bryant?
You know, several counties, I work for South County, for example, in one of the high schools that I'm responsible for the HVAC, and we had a young guy commit suicide, 16 years old. I have other parents, a good friend of mine in Eden, North Carolina. They're really watching their kid, really watching. They're worried. And I hear a lot of parents worried about that and stuff. Or the social workers and all, you know, you're saying they were making sure kids are engaging and stuff.
Yes, sir.
Are they addressing any issues like that or having any problems with stuff like
Yes,
that
sir.
being told to them?
Our social workers, various counselors, anytime we receive any type of information like that, we act on it, act upon that information.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go into detailed information in
Right.
this format, of course.
Right.
But yes, there are situations where a parent will reach out to Dr. Rice, one of us as district leaders, or it may be as simple as a phone call to a social worker themselves. I'll give you a perfect example. We had a mother that is a traveler. Her job requires her to travel. And she left one of her children in the care of a family friend, and we needed some information. And one of our social workers had already built a relationship with that mother from helping her obtain a car seat and some other things early in the year. So she was able to get in touch with this mom when no one else was able to. So we are going above and beyond. Our folks really are taking every step they can. We had our parent meetings this past week, and that did come up in conversation that parents throughout our county are worried about the social and emotional well-being of their children.
Right.
And of our students, and we take that very seriously. So yes, sir, those conversations are taking place.
Okay, that's what I'd sure hate to have that on our conscience, you know. I'd love to be able to get our kids back in school where they could intermingle with each other, have that social that they're missing right now. So thank you for the hard work.
That's where partnerships with Insight and Stokes Friends of Youth, those types of partnerships are essential when we have situations that may be beyond the scope of what we can do in a school setting.
Right.
We do reach out and work with those partners to address those issues.
And thank you for your hard work, Dr. Dale. Thank you. Dr. Rice.
Ms. Messick?
Well, I do thank you for working with the social workers. We need more. And also for Ms. McGee and Mr. Rose working with the counselors. Ms. McGee, are the counselors in the elementary school teaching any character ed?
Yes, character education. Yes, ma'am. They're teaching character education, this, the social and emotional learning, and the career pieces. That's part of their curriculum.
Good. Well, the reason I think that character ed is so important in the elementary school is that it gets the counselors able to know all the students in the school. By the end of the year, they don't know all their names. They at least know their faces and a lot of little stories that go with them. And if you don't teach every child in the school through character ed as a guidance counselor, and you only just have, say, 15 to 25 that you're counseling, you won't get to know all the students. And that is where your building block is in the elementary school, in my opinion, as to where they get to know the students, they get to hear some of the problems, because little children will tell problems. And that way the counselor maybe can set aside time to counsel.
Yeah.
So I do feel like that is very, very important.
And all of our counselors are involved in weekly rotations. So
Okay, and the
they're all
coun-
serving
Correct.
in the classroom. Character education, as well as the classroom teacher. That's part of their standards as well.
Okay.
So they're getting kind of a double dose, so to speak.
Well, I know from the fact that I taught fourth grade 18 years, and then when I switched over to elementary art for 13, that when I did that, I saw all the students in the school, and I had really large schools. But by the time they were in the fifth grade, you know, I was able to have a good rapport with the fourth and fifth graders because I had met them in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And that will be the way with the counselors. And then when social workers come in,
Yes.
they can deal with some of the heavier parts of the counseling by visiting the parents
Yes.
at home.
And the counselors and the social workers have partnered quite a bit as well.
That's good.
So we're not there yet with everything we need social emotionally, but we are all pulling our definite weight.
Well, I know it's been hard with COVID, but I feel good hearing that
Yes,
they're
ma'am.
stepping up and doing their part.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Robertson?
Not really much more to add, but just to, Dr. Taylor alluded there a while ago about on our meetings that we had this past weekend, or this past Thursday, Friday, we did hear the mental health issue quite a bit. So I think what your work is important. And I think it's comforting probably to those parents to know that we're working on that. So, but we did hear Ms. Messick was on the meetings with us too, and it came up more than once. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your hard work, and you know, whatever we can do to help, let us know.
I have to piggyback on what he said. Honestly, parents are very worried from the elementary to the middle to the high school. That was a big concern, just like Mr. Robertson said. The mental health issue and the children feeling disconnected, even the elementary children and on through middle school, and especially the high school students seem disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we can do to reach out to them, I say let's do it.
Well, the transition years are always difficult, and this year it brings a whole new set of challenges. You know, normally when a freshman class comes in, that's one of the primary responsibilities of that staff that they feel is to try to get to know these kids and get them apart and get them invested in something and get them in a club, get them in a sport, get them in an activity to make them have ownership and belonging in a school. And we've lost a lot of that this year.
Yeah.
And so there is you used the correct term there, a disconnect, that they are not connected to these schools this year, whether it's not even getting to go to a ball game to be a part of a student body in a crowd and to sing a fight song with a band and to cheer with the cheerleaders. And you've missed that part with the reduced crowds and all of that. And so they may be a high school freshman this year, but they're not a member of that school yet.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with a sixth grader in a middle school. They've not gone to cheer on their classmates at ball games this year. They've not been in the band concerts. They've not been in a chorus concert to see their peers and to root for them and to be connected. They've lost all of that. Our students have had great losses this year. I know as a society, we talk about jobs and the things that adults have lost. Well, our students have lost a lot because of COVID.
Yep. And we had a parent discuss that very thing, you know, that she had her daughter was a ninth grader, and she hasn't had a chance to, you know, go to the pep rally or go to the football game, or, you know, she said even see the parking lot full of cars. You know, it's just she did feel that disconnect from her daughter, that she just didn't feel like she was in high school yet almost. So, you know, I think sometimes we think about the seniors last year, and you know, we always hated it for the seniors because they missed out on their prom, they missed out on a few things. But, you know, they did have a senior year all the way up until the end of the year.
Till March, yeah.
And this year, you know, the seniors haven't had any year. Ms. Barker's got a son that's a senior, I think. And it's hard. And she knows probably better than some of us, but it's tough on the kids, and the mental health aspect is tough. So,
Well, and I really worry about the kindergartners that have come into school and not gotten the school experience. I mean, elementary schools are amazing. Those teachers and I always think of a duck walking around with the ducklings, and pulling them under their wings and all of that. And they've not had that. And they're back 5 days a week now, but still because of protocols, and we're trying to do some of those connected activities, but the simple things of not being able to see facial expressions. And again, we're trying to compensate for it. But used to, when I would visit an elementary school classroom, I would smile at a kid and give a little wave, and they would grin and wave back. And now they can't see that. And so, you're supposed to create 6 feet, but you just want to go over and touch them and say, hey, I'm here for you. We're a friendly face. We're pulling, to connect in some way. And again, we're working on that within the constraints we have, but I'm not about to say it's normal. It's not a normal thing.
We need your smiling face picture on a little poster there. This is me. This is what I look like smiling.
the little fan holding it up.
Right.
Yeah. It is very tough. I had a friend refer to students coming through COVID pandemic and all this as our little superheroes because of they've had to bear a lot of burden that we sometimes don't realize,
I would be remiss if I did not mention that it's not only our counselors and social workers reaching out to parents and communicating with parents. It's teachers, it's other staff members. These efforts are across the board. So I want to make sure that I emphasize it's not just
School administrators.
yes, it's not just our counselors and social workers. It's administrators, it's bus drivers speaking to young people when they get on the bus first thing in the morning. It's bus drivers when they get off in the afternoon and telling them to have a good evening. So this is it's a joint effort across our entire district. So we just want to say thank you and make sure they all know how much we appreciate the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
I agree, because I sit and listen to lessons during the week, and there's this one high school teacher, and she greets each person and just makes some personal comment. And sometimes you can hear the kids comment back and sometimes you don't, but it does not matter. That makes a connection. And that kid, whether they answer back or not, they're feeling it. They feel that she cares about them. And that's a great thing, because she takes a little time to call each person's name and make a comment, positive comment. And she does it every day. And I really appreciate that about her.
When I was in my former district, started off there as a middle school assistant principal, and we had a student that could very much be called an at-risk student. I would say that most teachers would have given it a coin flip as to whether or not he would have graduated or not. He could have gone either way. And when I went to graduation that year and heard his name called, I thought back to the memories of him being in school. So I went to find him afterwards and just tell him congratulations, and I was proud of him for sticking through and making it. And when I told him all that, he kind of looked at me and grinned. He said, "You know why I made it?" And I was ready for him to say the impact that I made on his life, and I was getting ready for that. He said, "The custodian at the high school." He said, because every day he talked to me, and every day I wasn't there, the next day he asked me why not.
Oh.
And he said that every morning he was waiting in the cafeteria downstairs at Ashboro High School by the trash can waiting to clean up. But he would ask me why I wasn't at school the day before if I wasn't there. And he said, he's the reason I made it through and graduated. So it takes everyone.
Right.
Yeah, it
Right,
absolutely
right.
takes everyone. And you never know what impact you might make on a child.
I will
That's
finish
true.
with one positive thing. During our, I believe it was elementary teacher meeting Friday,
Mhm.
a teacher made the comment that with all of the troubles that COVID has created, it's also created interesting ways to get to know kids better. they referenced how during a virtual meeting, the kids take pleasure in showing the rest of the class their cat or their pet,
Oh, I remember.
or something that is about them, and the teacher can then say, well, I have a cat too, or here's my dog.
Here's my cat.
And she talked about how it was an opportunity to make connections that she would not necessarily have under a regular circumstance. So there are good things that we hear as well. So
I will ask, sorry, what, and Ms. McGee and Mr. Rose, may know, like what further education for staff? And I know they have lots of training even prior to COVID, as far as, recognizing those kids that are all virtual, is it just a lack of attendance? Is it certain things they may have said? You know what I mean? Like education on how to recognize those that may not be where they need to be mentally. Without asking for help, how do you recognize that struggle there sometimes?
well, as Ms. McGee makes her way to the podium, there are different programs, there are different methods that you can train staff to recognize different.
Right. And have we had the ability to share that information? You know what I mean?
I'll let her answer that question.
So our counselors have some screeners that they use, like someone mentioned suicide earlier. There is a suicide screener. So in a lot of times there are factors like Dr. Taylor said, a parent will contact us, a gaggle alert will come up. The teacher recognizes something. So yes, there's lots of SEL things out there for us to look at. But our counselors, they do a thing called minute meetings. And in the minute meetings, they sit down and they just ask a series of questions to our students that gets to know them and starts, it's not exactly a invasive type of comments, but they're looking for how the children react to those types of things. And they ask them how, it's one-on-one, and they try to do these yearly. And so we don't have a screener at this time for SEL, which is another universal screener for us. But our counselors are all doing minute meetings. So, and then they follow up. They don't just have the meeting and gather the data. They follow up with the individuals. So.
And do you feel like staff is the most up to date on what to look like from virtual learners, or their
we have shared
a
some
way to share?
information at the beginning of this school year on teaching children virtually and how to look for those things.
Right.
Would I say that we're all confident in looking at that? No.
Right.
As our staff as a whole, are they good at reaching out when things don't seem to be normal, like attendance or non-participatory or unengaged or lethargic or whatever they may view from a virtual learner? But are we up to date and know all there is to know? Absolutely not. We're still working on how to see the signs face to face.
Right.
So it's a long journey. We're all learning. And we're trying to be as responsive as we can.
Right. Does the state offer much information in regards to that to share with
There's
staff,
not been any
or
state programs that I'm aware of that's come down to how to
webinars or
more
anything?
identify this
Okay.
again.
That is the reason why elementary adopted the PATH program, because it specifically teaches to those things.
Okay.
We spent all last year vetting
the
programs.
program
PATH
again?
is a PATH, like I'm walking down a path
Right.
with an S on the end of it. It's an acronym because in education,
Everything
that's
has
all we
an
do is
acronym.
acronyms.
Right.
But it's not specific to online virtual learning
No,
either.
it is not.
That was
Okay.
before COVID.
That is
It's
correct.
how to,
So they're adapting.
yes.
So we, by no means are we experts. I have a counselor say to me, we are being hyper vigilant to all of our students this year because they are aware that there could be extenuating circumstances like power being turned off or food not being in the home. They're trying to be very hyper vigilant, which is a lot for them, especially for elementary and some of the places where they serve multiple schools.
Right.
So
I
it's
appreciate
still a work in progress.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other questions?
So I'd just like to add one other thing. We kind of got talking a little bit about our focus groups. And I would like to let everyone know that in our parent meeting on Thursday, we had a tremendous amount of comments support from the parents to the teachers. Just talking about how good a job the teachers are doing, how pleased they were, and how hard the parents recognize, I think, how hard the teachers are working, trying to make this whole thing work. And I was real encouraged by that. And it was good. And we let the teachers know when we met with them on Friday exactly what the parents said. And Mr. Rose, we talked about it a little bit after one of the meetings, that it would have been so nice if we could have maybe had some recordings of that, or we even talked about maybe doing a video, having the parents send us in a little video clip, a few seconds long, or 5-10 seconds, and compiling a couple-minute video that we could send out to the teachers and just letting them know that the parents and the people, and everybody does appreciate them and support them. Because we did hear from the teachers as well that they are, that we know that they've worked hard and they are tired. So I think it would be good if we could work up some kind of video and let the parents contribute to it, and show the teachers just how appreciative everybody is of them. But the meetings went very well, and I think maybe at our next meeting, Mr. Rose and Ms. McGee may have a presentation or something on that. And but the meetings I thought went very well, and I thought we maybe should maybe make it more of a regular thing. Every couple months or so, have a meeting and involve different teachers, different parents, and just to kind of keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on with that.
Thank you. That's great. I'm glad of that concern and appreciation that's shared there. Next, we'll move on then to our action, is that right? Action agenda. We have item A, approval of personnel and coaching. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve personnel and coaching as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Messick. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Next, we have item B, approval of policy 1000 series. Is there a motion to approve or any discussion regarding those?
I make a motion, we approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We have item C, the budget resolution.
I make a motion to approve the budget resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. All those in favor? Aye. Next, we have item D, the iCares Middle School After School Program. I do have one question. Does that affect anything with like Junior Blast or keeping all that intact? That's sort of separate, totally
This is just
separate.
for our middle schools.
Just for the middle school. Okay.
Make a motion to approve the iCares packages presented by Educational Czar Doug Rose.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Messick. All those in favor? Aye. Next, we have information and announcements.
Board members, I will not go over each one of these, but I do want to highlight a few. Please be reminded that your next meeting is scheduled for March the 1st. That's an 8:30 a.m. meeting here in this office. We also have some fundraisers for your review, for your attention, I should say. We have the latest PMR. We've made some adjustments to our calendars. Those are now reflected there. And I'd like to say a special thank you on behalf of Dr. Rice and myself. I'd like to say a special thank you to Mr. Goins and his staff. A large contingent of maintenance staff was at Piney Grove both Saturday night and yesterday, working to move food and try to reestablish, restore power. So we couldn't do what we do without those folks working the long hours, sometimes even overnight and weekends. So special thank you to Mr. Goins and his staff.
Yes, thank y'all very much.
Again, just echoing that in several ways. Again, tech support all hours of the night, monitoring gaggle all hours of the night. The bus crew for helping check roads and 3 a.m. in the morning and then working all day and then maybe again at 3 a.m. the next morning, the weekend work, the amount of hours that goes in all the time so that we can have school. And it's kind of like the old duck thing. On top of the water, it looks really smooth, but underneath there's a lot of work that goes on that nobody sees. just want to thank them for keeping on paddling to keep us afloat and moving.
Sounds like we might be paddling when
We
we
might be
leave.
paddling home.
Yes, and it also looks like our next board meeting is March the 1st and it's at 8:30. Is that correct? Okay. I need a motion to
Yes, ma'am.
adjourn. Moved by Mr. Rogers, I think, by the point of the finger. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Uh,
Have a safe evening. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Is that rain?
Sounds
Yes.
like we're gonna get soaked going to the cold.
Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh.
Got a piece of rope tied to the kitchen, like this floating by.